The Night That Changed Everything is a children's book written by mental health therapist Aaisha VanBuren-Owens, and the book is written for those who've experienced childhood trauma. I talk one-on-one with her for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, and if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Aaisha VanBuren-Owens, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Obviously, as it's seen right there in the background, you're an author, you're a mental health therapist, a mentor, and a coach at a school here in Berkeley County. And obviously, you're a mom and wife, and obviously, as I just mentioned, an author. How would you describe your life right now in a book title?
My life right now, the busy life of a female entrepreneur.
What is the state of female entrepreneurship in your mind?
Well, someone that goes out and create their own path. Someone that does things that bring peace, and they do something that they do, that's out of passion. Me, as far as entrepreneurship, author and personal trainer, and I also, of course, I work for mental health in Berkeley School District with my other jobs, but someone who just goes out and just do what they love.
Let me ask you this. How do you create a path with peace?
It's not easy. It's not easy. With me, meditation and turning to my higher power, God, to get me through. But trust me, it's not easy. It's not easy. You may have these bumps in the road some days, but ultimately, you get that peace from the higher power.
What are the bumps and roads right now when you think of mental health?
Ooh, wow. Stress. A lot of stress, especially working in the mental health field. You helping others, but also you have to take on your own issues outside of being at work, juggling being a mom, having all these other different roles, and you have anxiety sometimes because it's so much and being overwhelmed. So right now it's just like stressful in some aspects, but you have to learn how to manage that stress.
How do you manage the two? How do you separate, dealing with people with mental health issues and how to keep yourself mentally healthy?
Working out. I love working out. And working out is shown to help with like depression, anxiety, a lot of mental health issues. Exercising for me, it blocks out everything else that's going on in the world. It blocks out everything. And, you just focus on your routine and what you're doing at that time. So it's like nothing else exists.
And, you talk about focus. I obviously want to talk to you about your latest book, The Night That Everything Changed in a few minutes, that is. But let me talk to you about vision. You said this on Facebook, quote, "I couldn't give you the vision until you had the support and covering you needed." Obviously, God talking to you. What support and covering was needed for your latest book?
I needed that family support to have my back to write this book. For one, I'm really big on family. So if I didn't have that, then I would have been kind of skeptical, like, but then also God giving me that, okay, it's time. It's time. It's needed. We need you right now. So that's the guidance and support that I was talking about.
Who are you in this time?
I'm a woman who wants to help. I'm a woman who wants to support. I'm a woman who wants to give all that I can give, what God has put on me to give. That's who I am.
And obviously you said this too on Facebook, quote, "My child, I ask you to be patient. Stay strong, and I would reward you for all of your pain and pouring into others. When I tell you my God is so awesome, yes, God." Let me ask you this. How did you take your pain and poured it into the night that everything changed?
My pain came from family-related things, um, and things that didn't necessarily happen to me,
Right.
but I've witnessed and been a part of, and using that pain because I've been so angry for so long for a lot of things, using that pain and putting it all on paper, putting it all into a story that will help others. That's how I use my pain.
What is that story right now?
The story of Callie or my story?
We can talk about Callie.
Well, Callie's story is a little girl who's going through. First, she had to deal with, the death of her father, her biological father, and then not only that, having to deal with all forms of traumatic experiences from emotional to psychological to physical in the household that she was in from a stepfather and her biological mother.
Mm.
And being afraid to come out and say anything. So she had to deal with that for a long time until she met a friend that she had no idea that was going through something similar. Because you never know what the next person is going through until you actually talk to them, until you actually tell your side and become comfortable with that person. A lot of times, especially with kids, when they find that somebody else has gone through something or even worse, and they look at their situation like, oh, okay, I'm not alone. And so in this story, Callie, made a friend and they made a pact to, okay, we're not going to suffer alone anymore. And they did.
They did. How comfortable were you to write this story?
I was very comfortable. I was very, very comfortable. Very comfortable.
And I know that you obviously started writing in high school. I know too that you designed clothes in middle school and all this with athletic. What is the biggest difference about writing from then to right now in your mind?
Then I would just write on paper, not having any direction or not knowing how to do, certain things. I would just write, and I would write to vent because I felt like at that time I didn't have anybody to understand me when I was a teenager or younger. So the paper, I used the paper to, get out everything that I need to get out. And, now it's like, okay, you know what you need to do, and you're more knowledgeable, you have more education, so you know what you got to do. So there's a big difference.
The big difference. Now that you obviously know about Callie and her story, how much more do you know now about mental health that you didn't know before?
Ooh, a whole lot. And being that I went to school and got my master's in counseling and addictions counseling and working in those fields, before when I was younger, just was like, oh no, crazy mental health, that's crazy people, but you don't know when you're young. So now going through the schooling and going through the training, it's like, okay, mental health is very broad and it's so many things that fall under mental health. And it's not bad. It's not bad.
What is that biggest category that you are focused on right now?
Trauma. Because it's a lot. It's a lot of it, and more so now since the pandemic. There's more trauma.
And you talk obviously about direction. What direction did you want to go in when you started writing this particular book?
I just wanted to, when I wrote this book, I just wanted to kind of focus on, kids in the school, being that I'm in the school, and wanted to help them in some way reach out to someone. And I didn't just stop there. I continued to write. Right after I put this book out, I wrote her second, version, which is coming out next month.
Right.
So I wanted kids to see the bigger picture of, okay, I'm going through this at this time. So my direction is just basically getting to kids in school and the parents because they don't know how to deal with
Right. What is the bigger picture now between obviously COVID-19 and mental health and trauma?
it. Wow, COVID-19 has really did a big thing on everybody. Um, More so now, it's more kids getting into mental health than adults,
Mm.
which is unheard of because it's always adults, but it's more kids than adults that need mental health services now. Um, and it's like kids are having diagnosis of anxiety, depression, trauma, suicide, ideations, and trying to commit suicide. And it's when I tell you it's heartbreaking to see these kids and to talk to these kids on a daily basis. It's like if I could just help all of them and hug them and tell them it's gonna be okay and get them through, I would. But it's something. Mental health is something that is a process.
It really is. What's that typical process that you see right now?
Getting into first accepting the help. You have to be willing to accept that help first. When you're just forced into therapy, it's not going to be successful. You're not going to progress. You're going to just get there and you're going to get a lot of sessions times where kids are just or parents just looking at the kids or they're arguing. It's not going to help them at all. First, accepting that you need mental health and accepting the fact that okay, I do have an issue that needs attention. It's something serious, and understanding your diagnosis. A lot of times, individuals don't really understand the diagnosis. They just hear a diagnosis, but they don't understand it. And a lot of times, these diagnoses are not life threatening and not something that you have to live with for years and years and years or take medication for years and years and years. There's other ways that you can deal with, but you need someone that's there that can properly help you through that process.
How do these kids trust people these days?
It's hard. It's hard building a rapport with a child. Building a rapport. A lot of times it can take a week, 2 weeks, maybe longer. Just building a rapport with a child. The child wants to know that okay, you're not just there to give me okay. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. Be a robot. They want to know that you genuinely care about them and you're genuinely there for them and not there to hurt them in any way, and there to actually help them.
And for those children who are alone, Miss Owens, what do they do until they actually get help?
Cry, isolate themselves, cut themselves, try to commit suicide. It's a lot of that in these schools. Do turn to substances to numb the pain. Um, but it's only the cutting and the medication is only numbing the pain for that moment because
Okay.
after the medication wears off, you still have your problem. If you didn't cut yourself deep enough, then okay, you still see blood, patch it up. Okay, your problem is still there the next day or the next couple hours. So it's a cycle. They're trying to escape it, but in the wrong way.
In the wrong way. And I know this book allows children to know that they are not alone and empowers them to explore their specific issues in order to become a true survivor. What specific issues does a survivor actually explore?
That I got through it. That it didn't defeat me. I actually got through this. Yes, I own this. I own my trauma. I own what happened to me. Okay, it happened to me, but it doesn't have to become me. I'm not my traumatic experience. I'm not, the kid labeled as the kid that was beaten or neglected. I'm bigger than that. I'm bigger than that, and I'm needed.
Yes, indeed. This might be a silly question, but what exactly defines a true survivor these days?
Waking up to see another day. waking up to tell your truth, to tell your story.
Wow, that's amazing. And I know you said this about the book, families will understand what abuse does to a child and know that abuse is not something to be ignored. But what type of a mental health abuse does it's actually being ignored most of the times?
Well, a lot. Um, Emotional abuse,
Mm.
um, physical abuse. Oh no, this is my child. I can, but no. A lot of times, parents don't understand when you chastise a child, especially when you're angry. You don't know your own strength in that time.
Or limits.
And huh?
Or limits.
Right, right. And you can take it too far to where a child can be so small and can bruise or you can break their arm and you like, oh my God, yeah, yeah, you did that.
Wow. Amazing. So sorry, sad to hear all of this. What do families learn about abuse from children when they finally, come to the realization of that?
Families see that, okay, this, what my child went through actually drew a wedge between our relationship, actually caused them more harm than good. It affected them academically, it affected them mentally, emotionally. They learn how it actually affected their child coming from their child's mouth, not just from a therapist or a psychiatrist. It's coming from their child's mouth. Because when you do trauma focused cognitive behavior therapy, you go through that process with a child and a family, and the child is able to tell their story in their way. They write it out, they sing about it, they draw it out, and they present it to their parents or their guardian. And their guardian actually, for the first time hearing it, they understand what their child went through from their viewpoint and how it affected them and what their child actually want out of the relationship going forward. You know, trauma is something that you know families kind of brush off sometimes and say, "Oh no," because back in the day, it's like, okay,
Yes.
this is normal. This, we went through this too. It's not that bad, but no, we need to stop normalizing it because it's not. It's not normal. It's not normal.
And I know Kaylee endured different forms of abuse, and it took a lot of courage and strength to get the help, and obviously for her to get through it. Where did she get her courage and strength from to really, and I hate to say this, endure that?
Callie just, having somebody there with you sometimes gives you that extra or push to like, okay, I can do this. Like talking to people and conversating. She really trusted her friend. And when you trust people, sometimes it's like, okay, we're talking, and somebody come up with an idea. It's like, okay, well then, yeah, maybe we need to do that. So that helped her. That helped her get that courage and strength, and she didn't want to be basically in a box anymore. She wanted to live. She wanted to live, and until that time that she came out to free herself, she was just living in a box and scared.
And I know this book provides support to the children who try to handle such serious events on their own while showing them that help is available. How many children have you witnessed handling these events just like adults?
Ooh. Oh wow. This year alone, I would say 20.
Mm.
And that's in the school system. Yeah.
And I know you also said that this is a great read for therapists, school teachers, and families to learn how to deal with childhood abuse. How has this book changed their perspective on mental abuse or abuse in generalities?
I wouldn't say that it actually changed my perspective on it. I would say that it actually opened my eyes to see that, okay, after psychologists and other coworkers have used it in treatment and getting the feedback from them, it's like, wow, you actually helped my patient because I couldn't get nowhere with them. Or my patient was scared to, do this or say that. But after reading it to them, it's like they're flowing with words now. So this is amazing.
It really is. And speaking of which, the night that everything changed, what was that night that changed everything for Miss Kaylee?
The night that a knock came to her door and pops told her that her dad passed away.
Mm, so sad. So sad. And where could we get this book if we want to actually purchase it and read it?
It's actually available on Amazon, digital and hard copy. It's available on Amazon. You go on Amazon and purchase it.
Purchase it. And obviously, the police officer showed up at the door that night. Where was she emotionally when she first heard those words that her dad passed away?
She was broken because her and her dad were like two peas in the pod. They were so close, and she did everything with dad. She was broken and felt like she didn't have anyone else there because mom kind of turned her back on her.
Wow. So amazing. Wow. Amazing. Well, Miss Aaisha VanBuren-Owens, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome.